Right, this just into CNN. The New York Attorney General seeking now more than $370 million from former President Trump and his co-defendants in the civil fraud trial. Letitia James also looking to bar the former president from doing business in the state.
Let's bring in CNN's Kara Scannell. So, Kara, what are you learning about this filing?
Literally the best bang for your insignificant buck. Just put people there to listen to him blabber. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so these are the closing argument briefs that were due today in this civil fraud trial. And the Attorney General's team is now saying that they are seeking more than $370 million. When they sued Donald Trump, they initially sought $250 million. So they're significantly increasing the amount of money that they want to recover. And that's all that they say were improper gains that Trump had received. And they prove this, they allege, through the evidence presented at the trial. Now, in addition to seeking to bar the former president from serving in a business in New York for life, they're also seeking a 5-year ban on his sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump.
No, those guys are real estate legends, dude. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. No. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to New York real estate, okay? Including that one awful morning in 2001. This is basically like 9/11 too, you know what I mean? Getting the Trump family out of New York real estate is basically 9/11 too.
And what the Attorney General's office argues is that their intent to defraud was inescapable. They say that the myriad deceptive schemes they employed to inflate asset values and conceal facts were so outrageous that they belie innocent explanations. The Trump's team has argued that their financial statements were accurate, that there's no evidence presented in this case that the bank would have given them different interest rate terms had they gotten different financial statements or the values that the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, they're coming for me because I'm standing between them and you. If they can do this to me, think about what they'll do to you, folks. And it's like, I just realized the way that my camera is perfectly positioned, it looks like the Wednesday 9 p.m. Eastern is like a part of my layout and not actually an ad for the Republican presidential debate that CNN is hosting, or I guess did host, or I guess they're hosting it next week. Pre-recorded stream, yeah. Folks, they're coming after me because I'm standing in the way between you and them. And it's an interesting thing because it's like, yeah, they're coming after the HVAC business owners and their $100,000 next. You know, who amongst us hasn't greatly inflated their property value? Like an incredible amount. Like an amount that's way beyond permissible, that actually does, does turn something that like everyone does in a routine business practice into something that is criminal.
Argues were they accurate values. You know, the judge has already ruled in this case in a summary judgment motion that the financial statements were persistent and fraudulent. And the issue now for him is to decide how much money the Trumps would have to pay and whether there is a ban. But there are also 6 other claims that the Attorney General's office is pursuing, and that's why it went to trial. That's a conspiracy claim, insurance fraud, falsifying business records, and issuing false financial statements. That is up for the judge to decide. Now, Trump's team again arguing that there was no intent to defraud here either. You know, depending on how this plays out, you know, the judge had issued a scathing opinion just a few weeks ago rejecting Trump's argument for a directed verdict, in which he rejected a lot of their testimony and a lot of their legal arguments. Boris Briano?
And Carol,
sucks when you got Alina Habba as your lawyer, you know what I mean? You got the RGB lawyer out there doing the damn thing, and you're still getting owned. Maybe you shouldn't have gotten an RGB lawyer.
what is next here?
So next Thursday will be what is essentially the closing arguments, these paper arguments, but they will be argued in court before the judge with both parties making their case. After that, the judge said he will issue a written opinion. That is, he said he hoped to do by the end of the month or at least into February. So then he will write a written opinion on this. Trump's team has already signaled that they intend to appeal. In fact, a lot of their arguments during the trial, they had said to the judge they had to put it on the record because they intend to appeal this decision because they didn't expect him to rule in their favor. So this is far from over, even once the judge's decision is rendered. Boris, Brianna?
Kara Scannell, thanks so much for keeping an eye on that for us.
We would be remiss in talking about Donald Trump if we didn't talk about Donald Trump, the client, Donald Trump, the person who has been indicted.
Donald Trump, the father, and also Donald Trump, the lover. People don't want to talk about Donald Trump, the lover. I do.
More than 90 times on various counts. And
Trump's lawyer is a GTRP lawyer. If Trump's lawyer was a GTRP lawyer, if he had hired Donny O'Sullivan, for example, he would have been better off.
I say that, of course, because as we get closer to the caucuses, to the primaries, he's going to peel off the trail, probably a fair amount, to be in courtrooms, including next week he'll be here in D.C. at the appellate court at a hearing there. I want to play something that one of his lawyers, Alina Habba, said on Fox yesterday, and it's about what they hope that the Supreme Court does on the idea of whether or not he should be subject to the kinds of laws that other people who weren't president are.
I think it should be a slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. You know,
By the way, in the past I've talked about how like Trump actually has two different types of lawyers. Like he has the hot lawyers that are specifically there to be like television lawyers. And then he has the Italian lawyers that are there because, you know, he's literally refused to pay all the good lawyers in the city at one point or another. And those are his like real trial lawyers, right? Alina Habba is the hot lawyer. And I've always been like worried about saying it because I don't want people to think I'm saying this in like a misogynistic way until she also admitted that. Apparently on Patrick Bet-David's broadcast, which she went on, she openly was like, yeah, I'm hot. Like I'm there to be hot. Something along those lines. So the problem here is that Trump, instead of taking the Italian lawyers, the trial lawyers on the team, to this court case specifically, he took the hot lawyer. And you're not supposed to take the hot lawyer. You're supposed to take the Italian lawyer. That's what happens and when you get the hot lawyer, who is also a gamer, you're going to end up having her forget the file or misfile papers, you know what I mean? You can't do that. This ain't GTA RP, dog. You're going to have a $370 million problem on your hands.
people like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through hell to get into place. He'll step up. Those people will step up, not because.
Wait, what? There ain't no way she just openly stated on Fox News that our boys got me. We put him up. We put him up there in the Supreme Court. They got me.
President went through hell to get into place. He'll step off in the Supreme Court. I have faith.
I'm gonna run that again. Sorry, but that's because that's a
I think it
crazy
should be a
admission.
slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. You know, people like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through hell to get into place. He'll step.
What the hell? We are, dude. American politics is in a very weird space at this point. Like, I love this is honest. This is so honest. This is a very honest thing to say on television, and I respect it. It's certainly infinitely more honest than maintaining this lie that the Supreme Court is supposed to be impartial or whatever. It's like a you scratch my back, I scratch yours situation, and you know, it's transactional. And she's very open about it, and I respect it. I respect that she's saying it, and I'm not saying that because she's hot.
Up, those people will step up, not because they're pro-Trump, but because they're pro-law.
If I'm Brett Kavanaugh, I'm like, okay, well, you just put me in a box. Not that it matters. They are.
Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, the only box that Brett Kavanaugh's in is the box at Wrigley Field because he likes baseball. Okay? No. You can't do anything. You can't do nothing. Yeah, or boxed wine. Okay? You can't. Oh, yeah, is he going to recuse himself? Oh, there's real ethical violations here. Oh, no. Like, Trump's own lawyer said that, the SCOTUS got our back, especially Brett Kavanaugh. Like, get out of here. You are legally unfunny? Okay, well, you're legally about to see an ad, okay, at the top of the hour. How about that? So no matter what you do, do not subscribe. Because I want you to see the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. Right. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. But that chatter, you're not allowed to subscribe. Do not gift that chatter a gifted sub either. Okay? Get rolled. Other people can get gifted a sub if they're lucky, though, to avoid the top of the hour ad break. When is Adam coming on so I know when to take a pretend poop break at work? Thank you. Around 4 p.m. I agree, but she's not hot, bud. You're on Fent. Sure.
Are lifetime appointments.
Kyle Marks, thank you for the 5 gifted.
It's the notion of immunity.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the question of whether or not he can be kicked off the ballot in Colorado and Maine and anywhere else.
Well, first of all, I think it's a pretty dangerous game to be predicting what nominees who were appointed by someone are going to do. That just seems like it's courting trouble. But having said that, I think these are two fundamentally different questions. Number one, does the sort of Maine approach.
The Lucky Ghost, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. What did I do, Michael J. Kenny?
Or Colorado approach, does that make it through the court? But the other is the question, the broader question of presidential immunity. Can someone who ever served as president ever be held accountable for something they did in the waning days of their presidency or afterwards? And I think, to me, the way the court thinks about one question is going to be completely different than the way it thinks about the other. And legal scholar after legal scholar has said, if every president is immunized forever against anything they ever do because they were president, it would invite like the worst presidents,
Oh yeah, totally.
Basically in the future of the United States, because people would run to basically try to immunize themselves for every.
How would they win? Oh God. Hi. It's so ugh. This is wow. This is an incredible argument. Thank you. This is like the notion that why are we letting criminals run? If they win, they'll abolish crime. Or why are we letting criminals vote? Sorry, because we do let criminals run, like Trump. If they win, or if the criminals can vote, then they're going to vote to abolish crime. So stupid.
Everything. So I think the court has a ton of really complicated stuff to figure out, but predicting what people who Trump nominated are going to do and conflating what happens in some of these individual states with the broader executive power question, I think is really problematic.
I took that as.
Since Trump is off the ballot, do you think this might cause another January 6th, but even crazier? I hope. Isn't he just saying it's bad precedent to let elected officials get away with crime? I agree. it is actually bad precedent to let elected officials get away with crime. A president is not a god king. It's like one of the major roles that the Constitution plays. It's like kind of the whole point about us being like anti-monarchy is that the president is technically supposed to not be above the law. So it is one of the only like actually American ideals, I would say, that has been brought forward and kind of advocated for and is like a part of, it's like a universal value that Americans understand and think America is supposed to push for. So going against that, as I've said before, well, looks kind of bad. It would be pretty cool if there were more January 6s, though, because it's so funny. And, you know, it's great content. It's really funny. And it's also, like, low effort in general. Like, think about how violent the daily American existence is. There's, like, mass shootings all the time, right? And, like, what? You had January 6th, which was this, like, massive, massive, massive thing. And yet, like, what, how many people died? Like 5, and most of them were just, like, cops that killed themselves afterwards. It is pretty wild. It is one of the funnier things that has happened in the United States of America. Speaking of January 6th, TrueAnon has made a January 6th board game that is actually releasing on January 6th. Tomorrow, Brace Belden will be on the broadcast in person to shill his new board game on January 6th. But that's a leak or a random announcement. Funniest attempted coup in history. I think funniest attempted coup in history before the Brazilians tried to do the exact same thing. And then they, in my opinion, actually successfully did the funniest thing, which was an even worse version of January 6th that they tried to implement. Especially because the Brazilians did it on a day where the building was empty. So it's even funnier. God, Brazilian hogs want to be Americans so bad. It's just, oh God, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Is even more than a prediction, didn't you? I mean, this is Trump's lawyer.
Advice, yeah.
I mean, like, remember who brung you to the dance, Brett Kavanaugh? That's the way I took that.
Lifetime appointment. I don't think he needs to remember anything.
Yeah, well, that's very, very true.